nude or nudes. It's called Frankensteining. Robocop's visors or something. Stop there. I'm hiding them, but it's out in the open now. I do not have to hide my thumbs any longer. Blasphemy for some, but I am a chopper. It's quite addictive, and because there are plans and they are happening. Hi FLOSSTUBE, welcome to my FLOSSTUBE number 4. I can't believe how quickly it has come around to number 4. So thank you for joining me and welcome if you are new here. My name is Katie Dawson and I'm co-founder of Cottage Garden Threads along with my mum Pam, and we hand dye variegated embroidery thread and also created the Tack It Easy gadget for English paper piecing. So welcome to our world where I will discuss all things cross stitch, embroidery, English paper piecing, of course all using Cottage Garden Threads products. So there is a little bit of shop talk because it is what I use and it is what I love in my work. I won't mention any of the sales and things, promotions that we have, because I'm very conscious that they may have been and gone by the time you've got to watching this video. So please, if you would like to keep up to date with all of our promotions and things, please head over to our website when you finish watching the video, of course, and subscribe to our newsletter and you will be in the know, in the loop. And we also have some exclusive subscriber specials and things like that. So, and always the first to know when we've got exciting things going on. Everything I mention today, the products, the designers, and all of anything that I speak about will be linked in the description below. Go and if you haven't already, pop the kettle on, make yourself a cuppa, put your feet up, grab your stitching, and spend some time with me. In my last video, I released the Secret Garden collection, and then over the weekend, we had a bit of a glitch in the website and it was showing as sold out, but that is not correct. So if you did try and go on and purchase a Secret Garden collection last week, then and it was saying sold out, please pop on again because they are definitely available to order. There is something else that we have had come in. Well, it hasn't really come in, but we have what we call nudes. Now, nudes are threads that don't have any clothes on. So they are unpackaged threads. And what they are is mist dyes and seconds obsolete colours. If you watched the last video of Meet the Team, and Kate was telling us about one of her dye disasters and that they will end up as nude threads. So they're threads that we can't sell because they aren't actually anything. They might be mist dyes, or every now and again our cones of thread that come from the factory, one of the strands will snap and it goes down to 5 strands for a fair few meters until we either pick it up or we don't even know until the threads are dyed, and then they come back and the twisters can actually feel it, that hang on, this thread's a little bit thinner than the rest, and it will be because it is 1 strand short. So they will end up as our nudes. So if you do get nudes and find, hang on a minute, there's only 5 strands, that is why. Or sometimes we can't sell them as a fully packaged thread if they've got a knot from the factory. So a knot that is joining all 6 strands together. If we pick that up, we will not let that pass through because that is like a whole length that might be unusable. If we're lucky, and there's a couple of skeins in that one lot that have a knot in them, we kind of do a little bit of what we call Frankensteining, and we'll take a length from one skein and put it into another so that you end up with all 20 lengths, so the 10 meters. But if there's only one in the batch, it means that we can't put it through. So when we have enough of a stockpile of these threads, then we make up some nude packs and have a nudie run. So these are the nudes. There's 10 of them in each pack, and they will all be different from nudie run to nudie run, but there can be some repeats because sometimes there'll be bigger batches, smaller batches, and we just never know. Just keeping in mind that if you do order some nudes, if you order multiples, you might end up with duplicates of them. And please note that we can't repeat these. They might not even have a name and a number because they're a misdye. So please only use them in projects where you know that one skein is enough for that project, because you will probably not be able to get it again. So nudes, we have just had a nudie run at the moment, so they will be available on the website. But yeah, just keep checking from time to time, and of course make sure you subscribed to our newsletter, because we will announce in the newsletter as well that we have had a nudie run. This week I've been working on some cross stitch, some embroidery, and some English paper piecing. And I'll start off with the progress that I've made on my English paper pieced quilt. So we had our sewing circle last weekend, which is a little gathering we have in our hometown of a bunch of lovely people who get together and share their love of all things stitching. And between floating around and chatting to everyone and checking out what everyone's up to, I try and get a couple of stitches in a project of my own. Now, if you hear my computer in the background announcing the time, I've recently got a new computer and I turned on that function thinking it's going to help me with my productivity and telling me the time every half an hour or 15 minutes. And now I can't figure out how to turn that off. So that's what that little voice is in the background, if you hear it. So my English paper piece quilt, which you might have seen on a couple of things, but I've never actually, I think, really explained what it is. So my intention for this was to make a king size quilt. I started it about 7 or 8 years ago and wanted to make a king size quilt for my bed. That has since been reevaluated after I realised how many I would actually need to do, and I think it was thousands. But anyway, so I've been working on this through the years, and my girls helped me as well to choose the colours and to sew in next, and also to take the papers out of the back. So this is actually the quilt that inspired the Tack It Easy gadget, and I am using Liberty of London fabrics. They are my absolute favourite fabrics to use, and also some vintage doilies and embroideries and cross stitches that I have cut up. And yes, I know that is blasphemy for some, but I am a chopper, so I would rather see them being used and loved in a project, and it's going to end up on my bed than shoved away in a cupboard and forgotten about. So scattered throughout the quilt, and it's quite big now, is the vintage ones. They're just kind of scattered throughout randomly, and there is no rhyme or reason, there's no pattern to this. It was also an exercise for me to relax a little bit with creating patterns and sequences and colours. So it really is just grab whatever colour is not in the nearest vicinity to that colour. So not many rules, just trying not to group too many of the similar tone or darkness together, just to give it that scrappy look. There is also some fabrics that are not Liberty of London. So the Liberty of London is a Tana lawn, which is a very, very fine fabric. And so I have got some fabrics in here that are actually just a similar weight and feel to the Liberty, and some of them are from clothing. And I actually found in my local op shop a Liberty shirt. I had my suspicions that it was when I saw it. I said, oh, that looks like a Liberty print. this one here in the middle. And I went home and I researched it, and it was an entire men's shirt in Liberty fabric. So I've got so much out of that fabric, and that is scattered throughout this quilt here. So yes, I got the opportunity at the sewing circle to lay this out in a big area and have a look at where I'm going to go next, because it is about a square, and which way I wanted to elongate it to make it a rectangle. So I decided, for me, hexagons make sense when they have the flat piece on the top and the bottom. They just make sense to me like that. When it's looking this way, oh hang on, I get it with a point at the top. I can't even do it. That way, it just looks a little bit wrong. And that's just me. So I just have decided to elongate it out sideways so that it can lay over my bed. And I think I'm about 3/5 of the way there. So how big it is now, I'll divide that into 3, kind of put one more on each side, and that's about the size that I want to go. And my plans are to then hand quilt it with some pearl threads, a beautiful variegated pearl, just like I did with the Christmas stocking. So, because I really enjoyed the hand quilting on that. I mean, maybe ask me when I'm halfway through the hand quilting on this. But it is quite addictive and meditative in that repetition. So that is my English paper piece project for this week. I've also had a little bit of progress on the stitch along, so the embroidery version of the stitch along, and have now stitched up one of the designs from the Field Journal Volume 1 into a hexagon shape. So this has been glued down, ready to stitch on the half hexagon shape. I didn't quite get that finished. I wanted to have that finished for today, but didn't quite. So to stitch those around the edge so you can see what that is going to look like for the stitch along. And I've used the same colours that I did with this one, and it's really interesting to see how with the variegation they're stitched with the same colour thread, but they come up quite different depending on where the colours fall. So where the dark and the light of the variegated fall. And I haven't particularly fussy stitched it, like you can choose where you want the colours in the skein of thread to lay. Same with cross stitch and embroidery. I've just stitched it serendipitously, and they've just fall where they may. And I think that looks great. So I'm excited to make some progress on that this week, and hopefully be ready to share a lot more about the stitch along in the coming week, because there are plans and they are happening. The next thing I've been working on is some cross stitch, and I pulled out something that I've worked on along one of the first kind of forays into cross stitching for me, and they were the Quirky Quakers. So I've got a couple of finishes, and I immediately see this in an octagon shape. I immediately go to, ooh, I'm going to put that into an octagon. So that shape, obviously it's a very Quaker shape, and yeah, potentially do something with that. I think it's the patchworker in me that, and also from my experience with dressmaking, and is that the practicality in making something, and then it's got to be something. And it's definitely something I'm working on, because I know every piece that you stitch is just beautiful for what it is, and framing pieces, but there's just something in me that always goes to, oh, what could I turn that into? What could I make that? So I think you'll see a lot of the projects that I have designed in the past are very practical items like the work cushion, a little clamshell needle book. Yeah, but I am leaning more and more into just art for art's sake. And yes, but it is just very tempting for me to immediately think of what things can turn into. So the next Quirky Quaker I was working on from those was the unicorn from the Mythical Creatures. And the reason I wanted to pull this out again is because months and months and months ago, Mara had a little play in the dye room and created this thread, which I'll call birthday cake. So it's a pale thread with some splotchings or splatterings or mottlings of some brighter colours, and this is what it looks like in the skein. And I wanted to stitch that out on the unicorn to see what that stitches out like, because that's potentially the type of thing that we're going to do with the some of the threads in the Chaos collection. So there's a little sneaky peek. So I've started the unicorn with Sizzler. That is VD22, a rich purple, and it actually goes through. So you've got the deeper purple at the top and then comes down. It's a really lovely blend. And this is stitched with the Sizzler for the border and the little parts of the unicorn, and I'm going to do the unicorn's body in the birthday cake thread. So that will be fun, and hopefully I'll have that finished by next video. So I've done more than I thought that I have done. When I've been looking around, I tend to stop and start quite a lot, as you'll get to learn. And a little bit of progress on the All Treats No Tricks by Meg from the Witchy Stitcher. So this one, I had just done the little bodies and these little guys, and I've now done the flowers that are in between them and the little cauldron. But while I was stitching that, because this is one of the first pieces that I got a lot of practice on, I realised that I have completely missed a cuff on this little guy's legs on the bottom there. So 2 little rows, and that means his feet sit. He's got shorter legs than he should have, and it should sit even with the first one. And that is going to throw off the frame that goes around that. So I am going to have to undo that, or frog that, but it's not too much. So yes, I look back on this piece now and I can see quite a few spots, but I still love it and I will continue on with that. And very excitingly, I got to start Mary Morgan's this week because the linen arrived from a stitching time in Tasmania, and Carolyn was amazing at helping me decide what I wanted to use for Mary Morgan, and we went with a different one than the called for in the Mary Morgan's chart, because when I looked up the baked clay, it was giving off a bit more deeper brown. So, and I totally get it, dye lots and all of that. But I wanted something that looked a little bit truer to what the model stitch was, because I do love that look. So we come up with the Inca by Fox and Rabbit. This is a 40 count, and I've got it in, still got it in the Q-snap, which is another thing I got because I previously was stitching in a hoop, all of my other cross stitch work, and wanted to up my game and get a Q-snap and give that a go, and it's amazing. And I'll explain why. There's a couple of reasons, but So this is my start on Mary Morgan's. That is the center of the large rose in the middle. And this is on Inca. So I'll just start from the middle and go out. Absolutely loving that. It's very addictive and I can't wait to work a bit more on that. And that was with my conversion, of course. So all of those threads are listed in our conversion spreadsheet, which I will tell you all about a little bit later in the video today. So that is a new start. And the Q-snap. So you may or may not know that I have, unfortunately, short thumbs and wide thumbs. So if you've ever looked at product photos of ours that I'm holding and thought, are they big toes? They're not big toes, they are my thumbs. And the Q-snap is a dream to work with because my unfortunately short thumbs, so they're wide and they're very short. I get a really achy hand. I can't work in hand because the reaching, it really hurts my wrist, the overstretching. So I always have to work in a hoop, but usually it's a round hoop because kind of come from embroidery background. I didn't know how I would go with it because I thought it would be quite chunky and hard to handle, but it is the total opposite. It actually relieves some of that stretching for my thumbs, so it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I don't, for smaller pieces, like little Quirky Quakers and things, I might stick with a hoop, like that round hoop, but yeah, I'm sold. I'm sold. I'll have one in every size. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to maybe trying a stand next. I'm just holding it in hand, so a stand would be pretty cool as well. So yes, my little thumbs. And speaking of my little thumbs, I haven't shown you my thumbnail for a reason, but I digress. But I will tell you that I had a spare few minutes this week, which is very rare, and I was in a bigger town, a few towns over from us. So I found myself with some spare time and I thought I'm going to go get my nails done because the town that we live in, little town, no nail salons. So I thought, yes, I'm going to go do that. And so I did, and I got a nail technician that I haven't had before, and you never quite know what you're going to get. She's done an amazing job, but I failed to mention about my thumbs, because usually I can see a little smile forming on their faces when they see my thumbs, and sometimes it's a little bit of a, how am I going to tackle this? But I don't get the fake ones put on or anything. I used to, and it was always a huge challenge for them to, because there were no nails big enough to put on my thumbs, so they would either have to join two together and do some nail wizardry, but I don't do that anymore. So I just got them painted with a really hard stuff, shellac, I think it is. But I always keep my thumbnails a little bit longer because of their shape. Someone tells me they're creative thumbs, so I'll own that. And I have two of them, so that's good. They're a matching pair. Anyway, so I'm sitting down and she's doing my nails and she's evened them up, and then she started filing my thumbnails down to match the other ones. And before I could say, stop there, she kept going. So now, and the color I chose is nice and dark because I'm in my Secret Garden era and I wanted the same color as Misselthwaite, and I guessed, and I mean, how good a guess was it? Like, absolutely spot on color, that really deep tealy blue color. So really happy with the color. But when they're dark nails, it kind of exaggerates anything. So my thumbnails are now rather short and rather wide. So there are my thumbnails. And yeah, they almost look like Robocop's visors or something. I don't know. But that's why I've been kind of hiding them. But it's out in the open now. I do not have to hide my thumbs any longer. Yes, so that is why I love this, because it makes it really easy for me and my little thumbs. I also can't use regular bowling balls. I have to use really big heavy ones because they don't fit in holes. But hey, if that's the worst thing that happens to me, then I'm having a pretty good day. Let's move on, shall we? I also chose some linen from Carolyn at Stitch in Time for Mum, because Mum is going to start the Palace of the Winds project by Jan Hicks. Now, we have a fantastic blog post all about Jan on our website, and on the blog we actually have a link to a little conversion chart for some different versions of Palace of the Winds. Jan designed 2 colour versions, the burgundy and the green, which is like a tealy green, and then we also saw a stitcher do it in blue, so we asked for their conversion of that, and then we created some different conversions. I think like a true green, browns maybe, and one of them was black conversion, so black and grey, which is what Mum wanted to do. But when I got the linen, we chose the needle and flax, hand-dyed fragile. So spelt fragile, but pronounced fragile. And it is, I'm gonna have to get some of this for myself because it's absolutely gorgeous. So a neutral that she's going to stitch that on. But when I was in at the warehouse to grab them for her, I deviated a bit from the black and grey conversion because one thread really stood out to me and I wanted to build it around that, and that is India. So working with that is just going to be absolutely to die for on that. So the way that Jan has designed the Palace of the Winds is to have a dark of that colour and then a medium, not a medium tone, but more like a dark and light combined, and then a lighter one. So it's that transition. So the India will be the one in the middle, and we've got Cloudy Day, which will be the lighter one, and then Ampersand. So those 3 together. So that is going to be absolutely beautiful. So it takes 3 of the Ampersand, 3 of the India, and 2 of the Cloudy Day on the 40 count. So she is going to do that, and I will keep you updated with the progress. Mum is very camera shy, so she, yes, runs away from the camera at all times possible, but one day I might be able to pin her down and coax her into a bit of an interview for you for FLOSSTUBE. But I will keep you updated on her progress of Palace of the Winds. It's going to be absolutely beautiful to see. Now, Mum has done cross stitch, unlike me. She's done it in the past, so she is revisiting that. Yeah, so I'm sure she'll do an amazing job of that. And I think that's all of the whips that I have for this week. Our Stitcher shout out this week is to Maddie Stitches. Now, Maddie sent us a little while ago a very, very special gift, and this is our logo that she has cross-stitched, and it's so fine. So this looks like a 1/1, and potentially a 28 count, I think, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Maddie. So I think Maddie is here on FLOSSTUBE and on Instagram as well. And I've also kept the lovely letter that Maddie wrote, because is that not some of the neatest handwriting you've ever seen? So we opened this up and it's a beautiful letter, and I'll just show you this handwriting. It's absolutely gorgeous handwriting. Not sure you can see that there, but so neat, so lovely. So that has pride of place up here on my shelf because it's such a special gift that will be treasured. So thank you, Maddie, for that beautiful gift. Don't forget, if you are enjoying the video today, hit subscribe and give me a thumbs up, even a little thumb on the video below. My cup is running low, so I'm going to jump up and pop on the kettle and make another cuppa, and this is a perfect opportunity for you to as well. We've reached the halfway point of the video, so if you've been stitching, have a stretch. Oh, stretch your neck, stretch your back, stretch your arms, get up, have a bit of a walk around, and get some blood flowing into your hands so that you can get a cuppa and settle back down with me, grab your stitching, put your feet up for the rest of the video. I've got two conversions today because of the technical issues that I had with the last video, and fingers crossed everything is working well this time. So I have saved one of the conversions from the last video to this video as well, and they both actually use one of the same threads. So here I have the Wildflower Guide Blackbird Designs and the conversion here. So to see all of the threads in this conversion, you can follow the link in the description below for the conversions by designer, and that will take you to a public spreadsheet that is locked, so no one can change it, where I'm entering in all of the conversions that that we're doing. So I've got Mary Morgan's in there. So down the bottom of the page, you'll see that there are different tabs. It's just a Google Sheets file. So on the different tabs, there will be each of the designers. So as I do conversion requests, they'll get put into there. And so the Mary Morgan's is in there. This one is now in there, and the next one that I'm going to show you, which is After the Roses by Ink Circles. Now this was a conversion that we shared a photo of on our Instagram a few months ago, and it just, everyone loved it so much. So I contacted Karina Stitches, who did the conversion, and asked her if she wouldn't mind sharing, and she so generously did. So this is her conversion for the After the Roses there. So it's a beautiful conversion. And also that uses the apricot that was in that one as well. And I think it also, almost forgot, uses Hummingbird, which is in the Mary Morgan. So there's a couple more of the threads in that one. So you can check that out in the conversions by designer spreadsheet, and I will be adding to that. So if you would like a conversion request done, please use the link to the form, the conversion request form, and fill that out. It will prompt you to fill in the name of the chart, the original threads used. Also, you can request if you would like it to be a like for like conversion, so the most similar threads that we have to the original, or you'd like to spice it up a little bit and go a little bit more colourful or a little bit duller, or in a different kind of colorway. I'd love to do that. Yeah, I'll have some fun with that. I think there's also another one in there, which is a 100 Owls by Owl Forest. We just did that one on the weekend at the Sewing Circle. So we got the threads together for that, and She's about to start stitching that, so I might have a photo of that piece of work as well. And if you have a conversion that you have done yourself and stitched out and you would like to share it, we would absolutely love that as well. So use the same form, the conversion request form, to submit your conversion. So if you've got a photo of that, that would be amazing. We are working on building a fully comprehensive conversion chart from several different brands, and that is definitely a big build for that one. So but we'll get that up as soon as we can. For now, I will just be hand selecting them from all of the threads. So you may have noticed that our packaging is quite unique, and that the card not only serves a practical purpose of being a built-in floss drop, as you can see the threads hanging back up here, but they also serve as a protection for the thread, and especially when they're hanging in store, because you pick up the thread and you hold it by the packaging, not the thread itself. So it avoids having transfer of oils from hands and things like that on it. So you know that when you get your thread, it has not been handled, because everyone touches the cards instead of the thread. So it keeps them nice and neat and stops them from getting all tangled up. And the other purpose it serves is that it has all of our important information on the back. Now, they didn't always look like this, and you may have seen hanging in your local needlework store, if they've had cottage garden threads for a few years, you might actually see a few different types of packaging hanging on the stands, because as we know, thread never goes off. So it can be, stock can still be sitting there, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with the threads that are in any of the packaging previous to what we have now. It is just through the years how our packaging has evolved, and along with that our logos evolved and some of the information. So I'm going to take you through today the timeline of the packaging, and that will actually help you to identify, if you have some threads in your stash, how old these threads are. And that's really important, because over the years, and Cottage Garden Threads has been going for 18 years, and so our processes have developed over the years, and especially when it comes to dye lots and colour consistencies. So what you might have from 10 years ago might be quite different to what we are producing now. But like I said, we are ever evolving in our processes. So that means that in the past few years, we have got those dye lots a lot more consistent and continue to improve on that. So the very first original thread packaging, it's actually green, and it's got some artwork on there by Brenda Ryan, embroiderer, who was pivotal in the conception of Cottage Garden Threads, because she was the one who prompted Mum to have a go at thread dyeing. And that colour there was tangerine. So the back of the packaging actually had the label on that. So that's from 2008 when we first started. And it also had the instructions to wash in cold water. So since then, we know that our threads are best washed in hot water. But if you have any of these in your stash, then you are an original Cottage Garden Threads fan. So congratulations. And the next one, so the thread is held on in the back by a little rectangle of the card. That's actually, it was a bit fiddly and awkward to put the threads onto that rectangular piece. So I started off by cutting that into a point, made it easier to put on there, but there was still the issue of the label, the adhesive actually being stuck to the thread on the back. So I wanted to remove that, and then so I played around with some cardboard one night. I was just folding and just over and over again trying to figure out a different way that could maybe be a lot more efficient with the actual process of carding the threads. because you're doing hundreds and hundreds at a time. So something that is going to be a bit quicker and easier. So that's where the first version of our packaging now came about. So this, we moved to like a creamy coloured card, like a yellowy creamy coloured card, and this was the first one that has now the fold with the triangle that's holding the thread in place on there. And the label was still on the back. So this was in about 2009, so the first year, and these are all approximates, 2009, and yeah, that was the first version of this, and they're all still hand cut as the previous one was. So the same thing in 2010, so about a year later, we still had the same card, but we then were handwriting the on the front there. So that is Mum's handwriting. I would know that from any day of the week. And then this on the back here, so about 2010, still just had a little bit of that information on the back. And then in 2011, so maybe a year later, we moved to the same hand cut packaging, and that now has the printed name on the front of that packaging. So they moved to being printed out for every individual colour. At that stage we would have had maybe 100 colours or so, so that was quite manageable to still have them printed with the names on them. So 2013 we have the first one that was actually die cut by a commercial printer. So this one and the graphics have changed a little bit. So that logo, like at the top, was from originally that scallop at the top of the packaging there, just evolved and kind of became part of our logo, and that bottom scallop down there was actually die cut, and the packaging was all die cut and with the individual names on the front as well. And then we moved to a lot more of the information being on the back of the card. So care instructions, a little bit about who we are and where we are. And the next one is 2017. So same shape, same kind of card, but we were finding that we were starting to have some inconsistencies with the colour of the card, like, anything, tie lots, paper lots. So some of them were quite yellow, and then they would kind of go back to a creamier one. But this one, we changed the artwork a little bit. So that was in like the watercolour era. So with a bit of it's still like an industrial kind of vibe. And then the information just on the back in portrait rather than landscape. So I was trying to encourage stitchers to read the back of the packaging, because that is where a lot of really important information was. But we found that we were still getting lots of questions, and the answers were actually on the back of the packaging. We moved to a white packaging. Just excuse, it's a bit missing from there. I had them blue tacked on the wall at work, and then they all stuck together. Anyway, so the white card, and I wanted to move to the white card, and it did take a little bit of convincing for Mum, because I felt that the yellow card was taking away a little bit from the colours of the thread and adding a bit of a bias in there as to how that yellow plays off the colour of the thread. So I wanted to move to a more neutral background of a white, and we found this great, our printers found this Enviro card, which is 100% recycled. So that was an absolute plus, 100% recycled and produced with sustainability and great practices. So that is the whiter card. So still the same artwork on there and the same instructions and everything on the back. So that was about 2019 that was changed to the wider packaging, still with the die cut on the bottom. And then I was trying to solve how we could get the information across a bit better with the instructions on the back and the information. And I had a little bit of an epiphany that we actually have like a billboard where we can put so much information compared to other threads. We happen to have this great packaging where, yeah, we can put all the information, but I wanted to make it more readable, enjoyable to read, because we are textile lovers. You know, we love the touching and the feeling and the colors, and just getting so excited about using it that the words aren't always quite as exciting. So yeah, rather than reading a novel, I wanted to make it a little bit more like an adventure. So this is when I came up with the latest packaging, and it is like a little bit of an adventure down there on the packaging. So I hope you've all found that as well, and that you have turned the packaging over to have a look. So on the front of the packaging, we did move back to the sticker labels for the names and numbers, because by this stage, and this was 2021, so by this stage we had over 300 colours, and it was just impossible to keep up with the inventory, have the space to store all of printed packaging. So we went with a generic one kind and then put the label on the front. Now the label on the front will also give you the information of whether it is a stranded cotton or a pearl or a perle, however you would like to say that. So the stranded cotton, they are all 100% cotton, and there is a little pair of scissors on there, and it will say either 10 meters pre-cut for the stranded or 15 meters continuous. So that's how you'll know if it's a pearl or if it's a stranded thread. The logo evolved a little bit more from the fan shape into what is now our flower logo. And on the bottom underneath, I don't know whether you've ever actually noticed, we have a little stitch guide there, and the stitch guide just has little a pattern of little stitches and what they're called. So running stitch and herringbone and back stitch and cross stitch and blanket stitch, just so that it's a little reminder of what those stitches look like. And of course our little tagline, love the colour, feel the difference. Because if you've used Cottage Garden threads, you will know that the colour is beautiful, but it's also about how they feel because of the processes that we put them through, that we've developed over time. It means that they have a really soft, silky feel and a low knotting rate. So yeah, love the colour, feel the difference. On the back of the packaging, we have, of course, Cottage Garden threads and a little map of Australia and where we are right down the bottom of Australia there, and a little drawing of Mum and I, made in Gippsland, Australia. So Gippsland is a little region of Victoria, a beautiful region of green rolling hills, and we've got coastal and we've got farmland, and it's just a beautiful place to live. So the little flowers, the 3 little flowers on there that are all different little flowers, that is to represent our little team and how we can all bring our unique personalities together to create something wonderful. So that is what those little flowers are for. And then we have developed by Stitches, handcrafted and 100% recycled packaging, because these threads are developed by us as Stitches ourselves, and so that's why we have thought about so many of the things with the threads, like colour placement and the length of the thread and the packaging. You know, there's just been so much thought behind everything with the threads, and of course handcrafted because we hand make all of them, and 100% recycled packaging. So once you have finished with this packaging, you can Also, it's compostable. The little staples in the side will not be, but the rest of it you can just pop in your compost if you'd like. Then it has the instructions down the side here on how you actually use the packaging. And this one I have shown some people is just, I can see their minds just going, that it is something so simple, yet it is so handy. So they are a built-in floss drop. You see here how they're all on the ring, and I have just cut off the bottom, and there is another video all about that and how I organise my wall. So they're just, the backing is cut off there just for just a bit better visibility. You can keep the cards on, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just prefer them not on so I can just see the colours a bit more there. And then you can actually use the bottom of the card as a floss drop if you can punch holes in it, and then you can kind of keep the original skeins as the master skein, and you can take little bits off and put them on the floss drops to put into individual projects. Just a little idea. So the way that you drop that down, the instructions say to pull on the left hand side, and there's a little arrow saying here, there. So you just pop that left hand side out like that, and then you just untwist. Step number 2, untwist. And step number 3, it has squeeze and a little arrow here. Because there is just a triangle of cardboard up under that fold, you want to hold it there, because if you pull too hard on this, it is just going to pop out. So just squeezing it there will just help that all stay in place while you take one of your lengths. So you can either, it says here, you can pull out a length or strands. So what you can actually do is divide up and just get one, if you like, and then give it a bit of a head start. So just hold with your finger like that, and then just continue to pull out, and you've got that one in your fingers there, the end. So if you're going to use 2 strands together, make sure you pull them out one at a time, but keep that in your hand, in your fingers there, and grab the next one and just put it together. Same thing, just give it a pull, and then you've got the 2 of them together, and the variegation along the length will match up, because if you top and tail them, that variegation might not match up. So important to keep them, and that's why I like to pull them out and just keep them in my fingers. Or you can just get the entire length, so just hold it there and then pull that entire length out, and you've got that to work with. So I like to pull them out one at a time, because otherwise this bit, the rest of them that I don't use, will end up stuck to, you know, me, my bum, or the cat, or somewhere. Like some people like to use the hole at the top to then feed any leftover bits through, and just do a little pop it through and then through the hole at the top. So you've got any little bits just left on there, or you can punch a hole down here and pop it down there. So whatever you like there. So that's how the packaging works. Now the pearls are a little bit different, and I will do another video one day because I don't have one here with me, but the pearls actually are not pre-cut at the bottom. So what will happen is you'll pull out the left-hand side and they will just be joined in a big loop there. So if you do want to work with 50 centimeter lengths of the pearl threads, you can just get your scissors and snip through the bottom there, and then that will give you 50 centimeter working lengths. But if you need to wrap it around a spool, then you will need to just take it out of the packaging completely. So if for some reason you've pulled that, got a bit excited and you've pulled that a bit hard, and it's kind of popped out there, you'll see that that triangle of cardboard, that is what is holding it up in there normally. So you can just take your thread and just put it underneath the that triangle of cardboard and just push it back up underneath it. So you can push that up. It'll be a bit weaker, so it might have a tendency just to kind of come out when you're pulling the strands. So what you can do is just get a stapler, like a normal stapler, and put it over there and just pop a staple right in the middle, being careful not to catch the thread, and then that will stay in there. So just in case you have a blowout, that is how you can fix it. Also on the packaging, the back, is the care instructions. So in this band across here, you've got the care instructions on how to wash your work, and you'll notice that it says aftercare instructions, and that's because you do not need to wash the threads before you start using them. But if you find your work gets a little bit grubby or you've accidentally spilt something on it, you can just wash, you can wash your work. And following these instructions of hot water, we'll go into a lot more in depth about the care instructions in another video. But yeah, they're all there. Then we have down here, we've got small batch hand dyed, and dye lots may vary. So the rule of thumb is to buy enough plus one. So that there's a little thread tied around a little thumb. It's not my thumb. It's an average size thumb. It's not my thumb. So yes, buy enough plus one. So over the years, as I've explained earlier, over the years the dye lots can be a bit different, and even from time to time you'll find that there might be slight variations in the dye lots. I will go into a lot more detail again about that in another video, but yeah, just remembering to buy enough plus one. So if your project is calling for 2 or 3 or 4, make sure you buy 3 or 4 or 5. And then if you don't use it, you'll just have another one for your stash. And of everyone that I've told that, they have never complained about having an extra thread in their stash if they haven't used it. I even know of some stores who have a guarantee that they tell their customers that to buy enough plus one. If they don't use that, they can actually bring that thread back, and they haven't had anyone bring that thread, the extra thread back. Right on the bottom of the packaging is a QR code, and this will actually take you to our website if you scan it, and it says scan to stitch with us. So that will take you to our website, and you can read all of the blog posts, and we aim to have tutorials and things like that up in the future as well. So that is all about our packaging. The giveaway from last week's FLOSSTUBE is, and you have won your username spelled out in the typography range. And this week's giveaway is a pack of nude threads. So of course the keyword is nude or nudes. So give me a giggle and use that however you would like in the comments. So good luck.